And don't call me Shirley.
Radical Rant.
Welcome back, and you may have heard the report, I think we even reported it on it ourselves, of a new study out of the University of Western Ontario coming out from the Partnership from a Drug-Free America. And actually, that's not their name anymore. You remember the Partnership for a Drug-Free America with their This Is Your Brain on Drugs, the fried egg commercials. You remember those from the 1980s and all the many commercials that they did since then. The cartoon dogs that are disappointed in the pot smokers, or the aliens that come and steal their girlfriends. You know those guys. Partnership for a Drug-Free America. Well, they've changed their name, you see. They are no longer the Partnership for a Drug-Free America. They have come up with a new name. They were originally founded, of course, by a bunch of advertising executives, right? Madmen, ad execs, and they were originally funded by the pharmaceutical and the alcohol and tobacco industry. Now, they deny that at this point. In fact, if we go to their frequently asked questions, their frequently asked question, aren't you funded by the alcohol and tobacco companies? The Partnership at drugfree.org accepts no funding or in-kind services from the alcohol or tobacco manufacturers any longer, because just go to this document that's found at fair.org. They were originally funded by American brands, that's Jim Beam Whiskey, Philip Morris, that's Marlboro and Virginia Slim Cigarettes and Miller Beer, Anheuser-Busch, Budweiser, Michelob, Busch Beer, R.J. Reynolds, Camels, Salem's, Winston Cigarettes, and pharmaceutical firms Bristol-Myers Squibb, Merck & Company, and Procter & Gamble. Now, they did quit their alcohol and tobacco habit. They did that back in 1997, according to Village Voice. But they continue to take in money from the pharmaceutical companies, which the Partnership readily admits. In their frequently asked questions, they say, do you receive support from pharmaceutical companies? They answer, the Partnership at drugfree.org has been concerned for several years by the high levels of teen abuse of prescription drugs and has worked with numerous partners and funders to educate parents about what they can do to prevent to get help for their children's abuse of medicine that was not prescribed for them. Those funders have included the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, as well as a number of pharmaceutical companies who are concerned about the misuse and abuse of their otherwise beneficial products. These companies have provided the Partnership at drugfree.org with unrestricted support for research on prescription drug abuse, for web-based educational modules, and for community education programs delivered at the grassroots level. So what you're telling me is you got a bunch of unrestricted money that wouldn't just go to preventing the misuse and abuse of otherwise beneficial drugs, but could also be used to fund web-based educational modules like that Stoners in the Mist that we showed you. Folks, if you're new to the show and you've never seen Stoners in the Mist, go to Google, look up Stoners in the Mist to see what some of this pharmaceutical money was funding. It's basically saying that cannabis consumers like you and I are animals that need to be tracked and tagged and bagged. So check that out, Stoners in the Mist. The Partnership continues, what is their position on legalization of marijuana? They say the Partnership at drugfree.org on legalization, the position is based on the perspective of parents, our core constituency. Many parents understand that marijuana can be harmful, especially for kids whose brains are still developing. Now, I agree with that. Your developing brain, young kids should not be using cannabis except for in a well-supervised medical treatment. However, let's go on. From a parent's viewpoint, it is already hard enough to keep away kids from alcohol and tobacco, both legal and regulated substances. Okay, but teen smoking rates have declined to their lowest recorded levels, and teen drinking rates have declined over the past 30 years, and kids consistently say that marijuana is easy to get. The Partnership continues. Adding marijuana to the menu of legally available and potentially harmful substances will make it more likely that kids will use it. Well, that's kind of an unproven assumption, isn't it? Decriminalization in Portugal has led to less harms from drugs for adults and children. Teen use declined in all the medical marijuana states that passed medical marijuana there in the 90s and the 2000s, all the ones that we have data on so far. The Netherlands still has about half the teen and adult use of all drugs. And nobody's talking about adding marijuana to the menu. We're talking about kicking criminals out of the kitchen. Marijuana is already on the menu. It's already there. Kids are already using it. The question is, who's regulating that market? Who's checking their IDs? The Partnership continues. This not only adds to the challenges parents face, but directly affects the percentage of kids who will have problems because of the increased ease of access to marijuana, including drugged driving and dependence. Marijuana is the #1 drug abused among teens admitted for treatment today. Well, yeah, because when a teen is caught with marijuana, they're sentenced to drug treatment. Duh. And as far as the increased ease of access to marijuana, really? Increased ease of access when they have to go show ID for it in an adults-only store? Really? That's going to be easier for them? Now, I know kids get access to tobacco and get access to alcohol these days. Even those are legal and regulated and carded and kept behind counters and such. But when someone does that, when someone violates that law as the adult, as the storekeeper, we can yank their license. We can put the shopkeeper in jail. We can arrest the adult that hands that off to the kid. We prosecute that. We still have that sort of prosecution. And I remember when I was a kid, it was a pain in the ass to try to get a hold of alcohol, trying to find the guy who knew the guy, and it's not worth it. So let's put it behind the counter. Let's check their IDs. To continue from the partnership, they say, and marijuana, like other intoxicants, damages relationships, affects the quality of work, academic or other, and limits potential. Limits potential. Affects quality of work. Gee, how many more world records would Michael Phelps have smoked if he didn't smoke pot? How many more World Series and Cy Young Awards would Tim Lincecum win if he'd never toked? How much richer would Sir Richard Branson be if he'd never smoked pot? How much better would Carl Sagan's academic work been if he'd not smoked cannabis? And damages relationships? Newsflash, smoking in a joint circle leads to relationships. Oh my God. Partnership for Drug-Free.org. From this perspective, we do not support legalized marijuana, but hey, they're perfectly fine with adults drinking. That's where they got their start. That's where they got their money. Oh my God. And so I wanted to address their study that they just are trumpeting now, right? And basically this study, the real gist of the study, when you download the whole thing and read it, is about youth binge drinking and their shifting perceptions that getting drunk is cool. And gee, where'd they get that idea? The Hangover. Where could they have gotten that idea? Old school. All right, whatever. But cool, whatever. All right. But here's how the Partnership for Drug Companies Free from Natural Competition in America, this is how they framed it. This is their headline. National study confirms teen drug use trending in wrong direction. Marijuana, ecstasy use up since 2008. Parents feel ill-equipped to respond. A study that shows drinking is increasing. That kids are more likely to perceive 5 or more drinks at a sitting as not being harmful. Kids are more likely to perceive these days that being drunk is cool. But you want to focus on the marijuana and the ecstasy use going up, man. Here's the money quote. Here's the money quote to scare the mom and dads. According to the 3-year trend confirmed in this year's 2010 PATS data, there was a significant 67% increase in the number of teens who reported using ecstasy in the past year, from 6% in 2008 to 10% in 2010. Similarly, past year marijuana use among teens increased by a disturbing 22%, from 32% in 2008 to 39% in 2010. All right, folks, you know me. When somebody starts throwing data at me, laying that on the table, you know I'm going to dig into it. So I took a look at this 2010 PATS data. It's actually PATS stands for the 2010 Partnership Attitude Tracking Study. It's the partnership at drugfree.org along with MetLife doing this survey. This survey is different than the government's National Survey on Drug Use and Health. We already have that out of the University of Michigan. And that's the one that we usually look to when we want to get a baseline on, youth use and adult use and so on. According to the National Survey, only 16.5% of kids aged 12 to 17 had ever used cannabis, and only 12.6% had used in the past year. Now, those numbers rose to 17% and 13.6% respectively by 2009. So that's a rise of 1%, right? They went from 12.6 to 13.6, not 32% to 39%, okay? 12 to 17-year-olds went from 12.6% of them using to 13.6% of them using. That's not a desirable statistic. That's still 1 out of 8 teenagers using pot, young kids, 12 to 17 here. But it's only a rise of 7.9%, not a rise of a disturbing 22%. So how is the data different? Why do we have the National Survey on Drug Use and Health, 12 to 17-year-olds showing a different result than what we get from this PATS data that they're trumpeting? Well, here's the difference. The PATS survey is surveying 8th, 10th, and 12th graders. And when you survey 12th graders, now you're including 18-year-olds and in some cases 19-year-olds. And once you get into that age demographic of 18 and older, we got 18 to 25, more than half of those people have used cannabis, 52.6%, 31% in the past year, 18% in the past month. So if you're going to start including the older seniors, the 18-year-olds, the 19-year-olds, yeah, your numbers are going to be a little bit higher. Now, maybe that's, cause for worry that their 18-year-old adult child who's entrusted to vote for our leaders, smoke cigarettes, buy, watch, and act in pornography, purchase long guns, and enter into legally binding contracts, including one with the U.S. government to defend the Constitution and the armed forces. Yeah, maybe it's a problem that they might be smoking pot. But the report tries to make this correlation, tries to say that the marijuana use by the kids is so far, rising so much here, and they equate that to medical marijuana laws passing, and that we've lost all the gains that we've made since 1998. Well, you know what? If we're telling the kids the truth about marijuana, and the only way that you could stop them from using it was lying to them, then yeah, after they find out that you've been lying to them, maybe they feel a little more like they're going to try something. Maybe if we try telling them the truth, like we told the truth with tobacco and brought the tobacco use rates down to the lowest rates they've ever been, maybe that's the way to do it instead of lying to kids. That we've told kids the truth, that marijuana is not very addictive, that it's non-toxic, that it is a medicine, and that's led to more of them using it. What, do you want us to lie? Is that the solution? You want us to deny cancer patients a medication that can help them? That's the cost of keeping teenagers off drugs, is letting adults suffer and go to prison? Makes no sense to me. Let's tell the truth to the kids. And in my opinion, if more kids are smoking pot and less of them are drinking and using prescription drugs, that might not be such a bad trade-off either. All right, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us here for Kaliko the Intern and Cannabis Carry. We'll be back tomorrow with more news and interviews that you can use, and we'll take your calls on Toker Talk Radio next. Until next time, take care of each other, Tokers.
This is Normal Show Live, the voice of the Marijuana Nation.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it.